But let's go ahead and get this interview started. I'm going to bring in our co-host, Mr. Jeffrey Lewis. Just an incredible leader out there in the East Coast of Florida. He's a regional director, just exploding that region. And he's here to interview our guest speaker. So, Jeffrey, I'll let you take the floor, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you today. And listen, this is our session called Interview with Success. I mean, this is our chance to go in and talk to some of the individuals that are not only successful in Legal Shield, they tend to always be successful in all different facets of life. And we'd like to bring this information to you so we can get there. So today I have the pleasure of talking to none other than successful female entrepreneur, six-figure ring earner, and a state leader herself, Miss April Hurst. Miss Hurst, are you there?
I am. Thanks so much for having me on tonight.
Listen, we appreciate you for taking time. We know that your schedule is busy and there's so many things that you could be doing, but we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to serve us today. And so look, I'm gonna jump right into it because I have a few short minutes to do it. And I want to ask you first and foremost, what drives April Hurst? What is your go-to reason? What is your passion? What drives you to do the things that you do?
Well, I'll be honest that my big drive is really focused on being a major example for women. When I first came into this business, just being totally honest, there weren't a lot of women on stage. There were a couple, and they normally gave the women like a panel, but they typically were not speaking on stage in general sessions or doing big trainings. And I remember seeing that. I was 30. I think I just turned 30 when I got started in the business. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I need to see more people that look like me on that stage. And so I'll be very honest, I really made that my mission because I knew that there was going to eventually be a new generation that was being ushered into Legal Shield. And I knew that it was going to require people to really step up and walk into their greatness and power. And I was willing to be that young woman to eventually make it on stage. And it took me about 7 years to get there, maybe 8, 7 to 8 years to get there, but it finally did happen. So that was really driving me, and it still drives me today because I wanted to be a younger, I'm not old, y'all, I'm like 41. Okay?
I didn't say it. I wasn't the one that.
But I really did want to, show that it was possible, that you didn't have to, be an older professional, that you could still be young and vibrant and still have the opportunity to create great success here. So,
Ms. Hurst, there's so much in that. I mean, you brought up the fact that, you did it in 7 years. Women drive you. You didn't see people like yourself. Mm-hmm. On that note, let's just stay in that tangent. What do you want to say specifically to other women entrepreneurs that are in jobs today, mm-hmm. that are sacrificing for their family, doing what they always do, which is kind of carrying things on their back to get us to where we got to go? And then they see a business here in Legal Shield. What do you have to say to them in particular to help them, to gain some success within Legal Shield or in this industry in general?
I would definitely say so much of our success in life is really based upon seeing it before you see it. Okay. And here's what I mean by that. You have to be able to see it in your mind before you're going to be able to hold it in your hand, right? And you got to be willing to go through the process of becoming better. And so one of the things that I did, I said, hey, if I want to be on stage, what does that take? Well, minimum executive director, right? And that I was not I did not blossom quickly in this business. Okay. It took me a while. Okay. I've qualified for the first time executive director. It was October 2013. So it took me 4 years to build the engine. Okay. And so I knew that was like, okay, minimum executive director. And then after that, it was like, okay, I've definitely got to get this ring, right? This proverbial ring. And so
the defining thing.
Exactly. But I also knew I had to sharpen my communication skills along the way. Okay. And so one of the things that I did is I invested in becoming a Toastmaster. And I did that even while I was still working my corporate job. I invested in Toastmasters, and it's really inexpensive. Now during the current stay-at-home orders that most of us are still under, it's even cheaper because you don't meet in person, you meet virtually. But even back then, it was like $70 a year. It was so inexpensive. And I thought that is a really good investment. And I was really lucky that when I joined my chapter in Cincinnati, they assign you a mentor. My personal mentor was a Toastmasters champion. And he worked at a big bank here in Cincinnati. He was a big executive, and he coached me so well that I beat him in competition. So I
the
always
student is not a teacher.
Exactly. He was an excellent teacher that he taught me so well. I beat him in competition and went on to state and ended up becoming a Toastmasters International champion 2 years in a row. And that really propelled me to just really learn, right, how to be a better communicator, how to be brief with my thoughts, how to, take a lot of content and condense it down into 8 to 10 minutes, which we have to do often in this business. And really taught me that.
So, okay, you gave a ton of jewels there. Not only did you cover the fact that you had to build your business, and it took you 4 years, you said, to build the engine. I love the way you said that, because it's not a lotto ticket mentality, right? Obviously, you acquired some skills to build that. And then you said, blossoming the business, you had to get some mentorship so we could even tell what your personal development was looking like. Here's what I'm asking. So so let's back up there, right? In building the engine, I'm sure there's other individuals that are out there that are building their engine per se, that have what I call popcorn success, right? They're in qualification, they're out. They're on the edge trying to get there at every end of the month, right? What would you say, in your knowledge of building the engine per se and becoming successful and getting the coveted ring, what would you say is the thing you need to get over that hump so you can start to perform at those levels consistently and provide for yourself the way you do?
That is a great question. So I really focused very early on. The person who introduced me, which was a girlfriend of mine in Chicago, she had seen another woman in the business, Liz Fu. She had seen her at a big event in California right before she brought me into the business. And Liz Fu said, if you don't do anything else in this business, focus on Performance Club. Get in and stay in. If you don't do anything else, right? If you don't do anything else, you don't have to do it. Don't even think about anything else. Just start there, right? So she got taught that at a big event in SoCal, and I just grabbed hold of it. And I said, all right, I gotta get this Performance Club thing down. And I'm not one of those people that's PCQ since inception. That's not me. Okay. I haven't been in Performance Club every single month since I started. There are some, I've got people on my team that have that story, but I don't have that story. Needed to figure out really the rhythm. Here was my rhythm, because I was working a full-time job and I was working about 60 hours a week. So I was very busy, right? And so what I did is I focused on something called slivers of time. And slivers of time means, okay, can I get 10 minutes here? Can I grab 10 minutes here? Oh, I've got 20 minutes before I catch my next flight because I traveled a lot with my corporate job. Okay, I've got 20 minutes before my next flight. Could I get a text message out? Could I call a friend in another state and say, hey, if I sent you some information, could you take a look at it? Yes. Okay, awesome. I'm going to text it to you right now. I'm going to be landing in about an hour and a half, and I'll call you when I land. So I really leveraged those slivers of time. That was the first strategy. The second one was never eat alone. And so I typically had a 7:30 to 8 a.m. appointment with a prospect 3 days a week. Okay. Wow. I typically had to be in the office by 8:30, 8:45. And so I would typically have a 7:30 or 8 a.m. appointment virtually, like I said, 2 to 3 days a week. And then I always would work to not eat by myself, right? So I would have coffee with somebody in the morning for, 20, 30 minutes to show them the membership or something like that, or show them a video. And then I would do the same thing at lunch and have an appointment. And the great thing now is that we can do this with people all over the country because of platforms like this, right?
That's right. That's right.
So it's awesome. But back then, that's what I did. So I really just focused on never eating alone, slivers of time. Third strategy was I focused on really running hard in weeks 1 and weeks 4. week 1 and week 4. And here's why. This just worked for me because I had a lot on my plate. I worked a lot. I traveled a lot back then. And so I ran hard week 1 and week 4. Why? Because week 4, anything that didn't close in the 4th week would typically close in the 1st week. Okay. And this kept me in Performance Hub. Once I figured this out, it was like I've never fallen out. I'm like 90 months now. Right. And
Nice.
so I ran really hard in week 4, like to close really strong, but anything that didn't close almost always closed in the first 10 days of the next month, okay? And then I ran really hard the first week to get a good jump on the month, okay? And so that really helped. And then kind of in the middle of the month, I was working with my team, right? Middle of the month, I was kind of working with my team, helping them to get consistent, you know, instill discipline, help them with private, back then conference calls, now Zoom calls, and all the changes we've gone through. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. And so that's what I was doing in the middle of the month. And then again, the 4th month, run hard again, right? And so once I developed that rhythm, it ensured that I always had carryover points for Performance Club. It also ensured that I always was closing business the first, second, third day of the month, because I would follow up with anybody that didn't close the previous month. And it really allowed me to just develop some consistency in my business with Performance Club. So that is really where it started. And then it was all about finding people that would agree to do the same, right? And you got to recruit the many to find the few that then go recruit the many.
That's
recruit
right.
the many to find the few to then go recruit the many. So I just focused on more numbers. So the more people that I could bring into the business personally, out of typically every 3, 1 would actually lock in. Every 3 that I would bring on, 1 would lock in. I'll say it one more time. For every 3 that I would recruit, 1 would lock in. Okay. It's a 3 to 1 ratio,
Gotcha.
typically. Okay. And so that 1, I would lock in with them, and then boom, I would work with that 1 to really teach them how to do Performance Club as well.
I'm not going to try to recite everything you said. I'm just going to watch the recording because it was awesome. Okay. I got last question for you, and then we'll close here. What's next for April Hurst? You got the ring. Okay. Yes. You're running states. You're building organizations. Yes. You're on everywhere in Legal Shield, right? You're doing it. What is next for the Hurst house? What is next?
I can tell you, I'm a big thinker. I learned that from Darren Hardy, who is the former publisher of Success Magazine. When I read several of his books, but when I read The Compound Effect, where he just talked about how he would really visualize his goals. And he talked about BHAGs. BHAGs are the big, hairy, audacious goals. And so I don't believe in building my business by quota. I believe in building my business by potential. And so I don't focus on quota, or meaning quota, okay, well, I'm just going to do Performance Club, right? That was where I started. But once I mastered that, I had to start thinking bigger, right? And so now I'll be honest, I don't think about the $150,000 ring. I only think about the $200,000 ring. And I learned that strategy from Elizabeth Gardner. She said, April, when you guys start to qualify executive director, I do not want you to think about bronze, and I don't want you to think about silver. I want you to immediately be thinking about platinum. And so I focus on what the kind of the next big goal is, right? And the next big goal for Rob and April Hurst is the $200,000 ring. And I just believe we'll pick up the 150 along the way.
Ms. Hurst, it has been a pleasure sharing this time with you. And I definitely believe we will see you at the $200,000 ring. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our interview with Success. And we don't have Ms. Hurst for any longer, but we're thankful that she shared with us. Your smile is impeccable as always.
Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalez, I'd like to turn the call back over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much, April, for spending the time with us here today. You've been amazing and a pleasure as always.